Hey, bows and bow ties. Look, I'm just going to put my thumbnail up there real quick. You see that? Straw man argument. Now, you can spell straw man a couple of ways. You can spell it as one word or you can spell it as two. I'm not quite sure exactly what is the correct spelling for this, but we're going to talk about it. So, my son, let me do this for a second. Maybe I'll do this. So, my son sent me a link yesterday, and I'm going to be honest, I was somewhat entertained because I'm like, I'm a small content creator, but someone tried to take my content and I guess put a little spin on it. Hey, it is what it is. So we're all out here in these streets, but I want to make sure that I am making sure that they hear the whole thing. So, anyway, there's this content creator or this channel. I didn't know anything about this channel until yesterday. And let me see if I think I still have it up. Give me a second here. No, let me not share this. Let me stop sharing that for a second. I want to share my what is this? What is this called? No. Is that it? All right. So, do you see this? Let me see. Can you guys see this on here? Let me make it bigger for a second. It's called "The Educated Woman in Relationships" is the title of the video, and it's called the Philip Scott Show. All right. So I'm going to get on my son as to why he finds the need to listen to that. Let me go back to myself here. Let me bring myself back in here for a second. All right. So I just want to say this. I'm going to play my short. No, let me take her off for a second and I'm going to play my short. So, let me give you some context to this. My son sent me a link that apparently this channel took, I created a YouTube short and it was taught, I basically said that Black women need to get their education. And I want you to hear the whole thing in its entirety first. And then we're going to talk about how they reacted to it. Is this me? No? Is that it? No? Come on, where are you? All right. So let's listen to this. I know people are like, what is she talking about? What is taking her so long to get it together? All right. So I want you to listen to my short. I have this in the bio. I want you to hear this. Now I want you to listen to this.
Listen to me, Black women. I need you to get your education. Don't listen to anybody out here telling you that your education doesn't mean anything. See, your education is valuable. I don't believe your education determines your value, but it is valuable. Get your education, position yourself in other circles. It allows for you to grow, it allows for you to meet other people. If you ever want to meet a mate that is a high earner,
Stop right there for a second. Oh, people are trying to hit me up. If you guys are wondering, we skipped church today because we were celebrating a friend of mine's birthday. So we went and had brunch and then we went to the casino. So now they're like, you're gone. I'm like, well, I know, but I got to do things with my kids. So anyway, look, I wanted to stop right there. I said, when you get your education, it allows for you to have access to other circles. If you want to meet a mate, it positions yourself, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I want you guys to remember that I said this. Let me go back to that particular thing. I'm going to rewind that back so you can hear it. Let's try this again.
Allows for you to grow. It allows for you to meet
Grow.
other people.
Meet people.
If you ever want to meet a mate that is a high earner, get your education. You'll meet people in other circles. There's so much that comes from out there. Don't let anybody pull a Jedi mind trick on you and tell you that it doesn't mean anything. These are just my both thoughts.
Now, at this point, I want to make sure I make this clear. I basically said, get your education. There's so much that comes out of it. If you want to meet a mate that's a high earner or whatever, I listed several things, right? I said it has meaning. I said that it's valuable, but it doesn't determine your value. If I need to rewind this again, you know what? Let's rewind it again because I want to make sure everybody hears this. Let's hear it again.
Listen to me, Black women. I need you to get your education. Don't listen to anybody out here telling you that your education doesn't mean anything. See, your education is valuable. I don't believe your education determines your value, but it is valuable.
Okay. Now, You hear all these things, right? Now, these are very nuanced arguments. I wouldn't even say it's an argument, it's just a statement, right? Education is important. We've seen the data. If you have it, you can go out there. I'm sure you can find it on. I haven't checked the Brookings, whatever it is. I'm sure the Pew Research has it. There's so many different sites out there. I'm gonna let you go do your own confirmation bias or whatever it is, because technically it's not research. But so basically, there is a correlation to when you gain education. There's a correlation to how much you earn over the lifetime. But also, I said there's so much you get from getting your education. I want to make sure I make this clear. We're going to play this one more time because I'm going to play something else. Let's try this again. This was 47 seconds. Let's try this again. I'm making myself very clear.
Listen to me, Black women. I need you to get your education. Don't listen to anybody out here telling you that your education doesn't mean anything. See, your education is valuable. I don't believe your education determines your value, but it is valuable. Get your education, position yourself in other circles. It allows for you to grow. It allows for you to meet other people. If you ever want to meet a mate that is a high earner, get your education. You'll meet people in other circles. There's so much that comes from out there. Don't let anybody pull a Jedi mind trick on you and tell you that it doesn't mean anything. These are just my both thoughts.
Now, we don't want to go to my old one. Okay, so I've played this multiple times, and for those of you who want to know, okay, like I want to see this for myself, I have included the link to that particular short in all the description stuff. Now, I'm going to pull up. Oops, stop it, be nice. Oh, cancel. Well, what am I doing? I'm doing too much. All right, let's see. I'm pulling up. All right, so this is the next thing I want to pull up, because I found that after my son shared this with me, I did get a little bit of a hee-haw. I was like, okay, see, our people are doing too much. We're doing too much. This is why I don't even like to do a whole lot of collaboration, because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play. Now, this is a 5-minute video, so we're going to stop in between, and yeah, we're going to talk about it. Let's get on into it. So, should I make this bigger? Maybe I'll do it like that. All right. So, this is the Philip Scott show. So, when I went out to the main page of this, I didn't know who this was. It's a guy, actually. I believe it's a guy. It was already speaking that weird manosphere type rhetoric. So I was like, this is a non-starter for me, because to me, the way he was yipping and yapping and stuff like that, it wasn't very intellectual. So I don't like dedicating cycles to shenanigans, right? But because this person put a battery in this woman's back, in my opinion. Now, let me just say, this is all alleged. These are just opinions. All statements are alleged until proven to be true or untrue. Everything's alleged. Now, we're going to play this video because in my short, like I said, I took a couple notes down. I said basically, I said, get your education. You know, we talked about that. It is valuable, but it doesn't determine your value. Now, I also said that if you position yourself, it'll give you access to opportunities or whatever. I talked about how if you want to meet a mate. So I just listed off things like these are things that can happen. No, these are not all chiseled in concrete, but I just listed some things that whatever. But and then I said, don't let anybody pull the Jedi mind trick on you, but this is what we're going to do. So now we're going to play this video that this person reacted to, which, I kind of had to get my little hee-haws at, because this woman that is actually using my content for the Philip Scott Show channel, I kind of felt how unfortunate that you allow someone to put a battery in your back to use you. This is why I say women need to stay off these panels. Now, I want you to listen to this because this person used my content in this video. Now, let me get my life together here. Let's get on into it.
My name is Danielle DeVita. I speak about all things femininity, relationship, dating.
All right, we're gonna stop right there. It's gonna stop right there. Now, she's talking about talking about femininity and everything like that. Okay. I want you to remember she said, I speak about all things femininity, whatever, whatever, whatever. Let's continue. She said it, not me. Yeah, I'm just saying.
And I have a video for you about a woman who tells, women that they should get an education, get their degree. And I'm all for that. But I do have some.
Hey, now you guys heard her say it. She said, I'm all for that, right? Now, she says she speaks about all things femininity and whatever else. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's make sure we hear it correctly. I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth.
B.O.W. I speak about all things femininity, relationship, dating, and I have a video for you.
She speaks about all things femininity. Let me write this down. She said femininity, relationship, and dating. Femininity, relationships, and dating. Okay. Now, before I get into it, I don't know if Danielle DeVita and I are coming from the same space, because the last time I checked, I am married. Now, I am not using that as a weapon. I'm not using that as a pecking order. I'm not using my marital status as anything other than she doesn't get to use me or anything like that. Like, if you're not married and doing the same things, like if we have to be like equally yoked as far as doing the same things, right? Someone who's single shouldn't be talking about how to be married, and married people shouldn't be telling us things like, unless you're trying to tell people how to get married, that's different. But now let's continue.
You about a woman who tells, women that they should get an education, get their degree. And I'm all for that. But I do have something I want to say. But first, I want you to have to listen to what she has to say. Take a listen.
Listen to me, Black women. I need you to get your education. Don't listen to anybody out here telling you that your education doesn't mean anything. See, your education is valuable. I don't believe your education determines your value, but it is valuable. Get your education, position yourself in other circles. It allows for you to grow. It allows for you to meet other people. If you ever want to meet a mate that is a high earner, get your education. You'll meet people in other circles. There's so much that comes from out there. Don't let anybody pull a Jedi mind trick on you and tell you that it doesn't mean anything. These are just my both thoughts.
So, as someone who is degreed myself, I do think that it is important to be educated.
I want to make sure. Hold on a second. She just said, as someone who is degreed herself. Let me write this down. Degreed. Okay? We're going to talk about it, because she said she talks about all things femininity, relationship, and dating. She talks about being degreed. Okay? These are her words, not mine.
Educated. Now, I do want to mention that education is not necessarily having a man's degree to.
This is where she lost me. I'm going to tell you the reason why. Nowhere did I delineate having an education being a man's degree. I said, get your education. That's what I said. So already she's starting to have a straw man argument. Now we're going to talk about what is a straw man. Let's throw this up here for a second. A straw man is a form of argument and an informal fallacy of having the impression of refuting an argument, whereas the real subject of the argument was not addressed or refuted, but instead replaced with a false one. So what does that mean? It's kind of like, I'm going to exaggerate for a second. It's kind of like if I'm talking about hot dogs and you start arguing about tutus. Okay, so nowhere did I get into anything talking about a man's degree, right? So she's leading up to something. She's talking about a man's degree. All I said was get your education. Get your education. It gives you access to different things. Okay, so let's get back into it. Let's go ahead. Wait, let me get to my situation here. Let's back up. Here we go.
Not necessarily having a man's degree to determine yourself to be one who is educated. You could be educated through your experience, being cultured, traveling, learning from your mistakes. Education is essentially you're learning and growing. You can do that through reading books, listening to podcasts, learning, going to seminars, getting certifications. And again, like I said, it's
okay. Now, I just want to make sure I'm being clear. I never talked about what is education. I said, get your education. Okay. Now, before I get into some other points, like I want to say this. She said she talks about education being all forms of education, certification, seminars, podcasts, culture, travel experience, books, etc. Of which I have read many of books. Some of them not educational, of course. I have all kinds of experiences. I've been an engineer for years. I've traveled all around this world. I just came back from Iceland about a week and a half ago, about a month and a half ago. I just came back from a private island in Belize. Now that's just this year. Now I know that's a little bit of a flex, but sometimes you have to flex on people out here in these streets. That's just in the last month and a half. Okay. Now, I typically don't even put all my business out there because I'm not interested in doing that because really, I think the real flex is having time. That's the real flex. But anyway, I'm just saying I have multiple degrees. I have multiple certifications. As a matter of fact, over the last couple of weeks, I think I sat in recently a seminar. It was at night actually because I was doing my own personal edification of growing within my career field. I've listened to podcasts. I have my own podcast, as bootleg as it might be, but nevertheless, I do have that. To continue, I believe I have a lot of culture. I've been around a lot of cultures. I believe I have culture. And even if someone says they don't, I don't really care because I define who I am. I've traveled around the world. I have a lot of experiences and I read a lot of books. I should show you my office, but I don't want to because there's some extra papers lying around. But anyway, so she's talking about what education is. Never in my conversation did I say what education is. However, comma, I am a proponent of receiving a formal education too. But she is correct. Education, it is all those forms. That is not the argument. That is a straw man argument. I've never argued that at all. But I am a proponent of formal education, by the way. So now let's continue because, there's a little bit of humor here.
Experience. So education is not necessarily having to have this piece of paper saying you are deemed to be now educated, and anything otherwise means you're ignorant. No, that's not the case. So I think that it is good that we empower people to get a degree. But what I have noticed, there is a lot of empowerment for Black women to get this degree. And then these same Black women are saying, well, now that I have a degree, I must find my equal.
Okay, so there very well could be some truth to this, but this is the interesting thing. I find it so strange that the Black community, as broken as it is, would actually use education as a weapon on either side. The fact that we would rather tell people like, oh, you shouldn't necessarily shoot for someone who is educated, if that is your standard, right? For me, that was a standard for me. I won't apologize for it because I do value education to include all forms of education. I do value them. I will not apologize for it. And the fact that anyone would want to actually have that as a debate, to me, it's almost, I'm not going to call names, but it sounds like I'm calling names. But to me, this isn't an intellectual conversation at this point. This is like, I feel like there's some nuance that's lacking here. Like, it's so strange to me that people would say, like, let's just go back because I don't want to put words in her mouth. I want to repeat it. Like, come on. Let's let her repeat it.
For Black women to get this degree. And then these same Black women are saying, well, now that I have a degree, I must find my equal. My equal needs to have this same amount of money and better.
And so this is what's so strange about it. Number one, that was never my argument. I just said, get your education. That is basically, here we go. Let me put this back. Let me take this off for a second. Take that off. A straw man is when you're talking about something and it's like when you bring up something else, like you're making something else the argument. That was never the argument. Actually, there was no argument. I made a statement, get your education. That's what I said. This person went down the bunny trail, hoppity hop hop, hippity hopping hop, just hopping down this bunny trail. This was not even Like it's like you're attacking an argument that I didn't make. That is the definition of a straw man. Okay? Now, let's get back to it because there is some humor here. Okay.
And nothing wrong with wanting a provider, but we sometimes mix education with relationships. You do not need an education to have a relationship.
Okay. Once again, who's mixing that? Because all I said was get your education. It can give you access to finding a high earner. It can give you access to whatever it was I said, right? Who's basically saying you have to have this? I said it'll get you a high earner. I didn't say this is the only way you can have a relationship or whatever it was she said. You can go back and like I said, I have the link to this in the description. I never said that. Not once. I said it'll give you access to people who are like I said it can give you access to people who are high earners. That is true. That is true. But like I said, oh, see, man, I'm missing out on the fun because I got to take my daughter to her practice in a little bit. Anyway, getting back to it, I just find this to be, it's like, what? This is like a weird position to take.
And contrary to what you
Let's go
think, a
back.
lot of men do education to have a relationship. And contrary to what you think, a lot of men do not think that you as a woman have to have a degree to get with someone of status. So
Okay, once again, let me go back. Where did I say that? Where did I say that? Where did I say that? I said you can meet someone who's a high earner. Now, let me just say this. How do I say this? Generally speaking, people meet people within their, some people will call it level, some people will say tax bracket, whatever. I don't know, whatever it is, right? There are edge cases anywhere, right? There are edge cases anywhere, but that is a small portion of the population. Generally speaking, if someone wants to meet someone who's a high powered lawyer, I don't know, chances are you're either going to have to be a lawyer, know lawyers from your family or whatever like that, or maybe be like a paralegal or something like that. You have to be positioned, generally speaking, to meet someone like that. If you want to date someone on Wall Street, well, you probably have to be in proximity to people who are on Wall Street. Generally speaking, you're not, what's not going to happen is if you're flipping burgers, generally speaking, a high earner isn't just going to come in, generally speaking, and say, hey, burger flipper, I think that we're mates. Like, that's not to say that high earners don't eat burgers, but what I am saying is high earners typically are moving in circles with high earners, typically. Okay. If you want to argue that, argue it by yourself. I'm not even arguing it. It's a silly argument. But let's get back to the shenanigans.
So a man who is of high status, highly valued, I think she mentioned in this video, do not need to.
Okay. Not once did I mention anything high value. Did I mention high value in that video? Do I need to bring it back up? I didn't mention high value. Not once. If I did, then okay, then I did. But I know I didn't mention high value. She said that, which lets me know she's listening to the manosphere talking points. And this is what happens when you let people put a battery in your back. Okay. So what happens is you're coming up with like talking points from the whacked out manosphere. You said high value. See, I didn't. See, you're telling on yourself. You are telling on yourself. All I said was Black women, get your education. Now, I focus on Black women because I happen to be a woman who happens to be Black or African American, whatever word you want to use. Okay. That does not mean Black men should not go get their education. As you guys already know, I've already told my children they need to go work on their education. Go get your education. That doesn't mean it's the only form of success, but I definitely believe in education. And the fact that we would even want to argue that, why would people want to double down and argue on education? You can look at the demographics. My son just had to write an essay for one of the colleges. And in his essay, he said something along the lines of like, because we did a quick little search, and he was talking about how, like, as an African American, he understands that he's in a demographic that's like, it's like the worst performing demographic. He's looking up right now he's going in possibly for electrical engineering. He's like only 4.3% of electrical engineers are black men. So we were talking about the demographics, right? Now, I just find it to be interesting that someone would get here on this panel and would want to like it just I'm just really surprised. I'm surprised. It says degreed Davita, Danielle Davita. I'm really surprised about that, but let's continue.
To have this educated woman. You can, to be honest, the woman who's most likely to get that type of man is someone who is feminine.
Okay, now I wanted you to hear what she was going to say about the most likely the one who's going to get that man is someone who's feminine. Now, I'm not going to disagree with you, or not you, but her, or whoever's watching this. That's not even the argument. It is not the argument. Not once did I talk about that. I just said, get your education. It allows you options, allows you access, basically. You can possibly meet a mate there. I just listed some things. But right now, what they're doing is they're trying to take my words, they're trying to chop them up and chisel them in concrete as if I'm saying this is the only way. No. What we're not going to do is do that. We're not going to do that. And by the way, we're talking about feminine women because the last time I checked back in my Fit Find Her Younger days, um, very pretty. I was slim, athletic, and educated. I was able to hold like conversations with people. And this is the thing. Most of the men I know, for those of you who've seen other videos on my channel, I always bring up educated men. I do. I mean, it won't always be that way, I guess. I mean, what I'm saying is I like highlighting educated men, even though this is a woman's channel, but I like to show other things too. I'm not going to be the great caper, right? Like if I have to get on black men, I get on black men, but I do like for people to see who I'm bringing on my channel. And every single man thus far, anyway, that I have brought on, these are like highly educated individuals, business owners and stuff. Like I don't get into all their business because it's not for everybody to know. I'm talking about software developers and engineers, stuff like that. Every single one that you've seen here so far as I can remember. All of them. Yes. Talented individuals. They look like me, they look like us, right? I bring them up for a reason, but I digress. Now, see, I'm getting off topic. The point I'm making is she brought up this whole thing about femininity, right? Now, I want to bring this back because I remember earlier on, she said that she talks about all things femininity, relationship, and dating. Then she said she was degreed. Let's go back. Here we go.
Is the woman who's most likely to get that type of man is someone who is feminine rather than educated. One of my first videos.
Okay. And so I will agree to an extent, but nevertheless, most of the guys I know, all the ones, even with the ones who are married or whatever, all of their women are highly educated, successful women and their team. And they're not intimidated by successful, and I'm not saying she's saying that. And like, I know my husband definitely is not about the ding dongery, right? And a lot of people respect him so much. I mean, like he's probably perceived as, and I hate these stupid terms, alpha over here. Okay, alpha male, But but my husband also doesn't feel like he has to flex on anybody, and they know. So, but my husband also wants someone, he's like, look, I don't need a child. I need a woman. I need someone that I know is going to take care of our children. I remember when I wanted to get a nanny, he was like, oh, you can take care of these children. These are our children. And he's like, I don't want anybody taking care of my children, even though we had them in daycare and stuff like that in private school for a period of time. But he was like, we don't need a nanny. And we would get into it. He was like, you're the mom. And I was like, you know what? All right, then they're just going to get down with it. I really wanted some help at the time. He was like, whatever, we just going to work it out. I don't want anybody around my kids. He's very protective of our children. So I'm just kind of like listening to this in anyway, like, okay, I'm getting off topic again. Let's reel it back because I just find this, I don't even understand why she would allow somebody to put her on video and saying these things. She's talking about femininity and talking about how men, the type of these high earners want very feminine women. And I know so many high earners who have very feminine women who are highly educated. I know men who have women who are doctors. Yeah, engineers. I'm an engineer, right? Trying to think what else. Managers of large divisions and companies and all kinds of stuff. Business owners. Yes. So are we saying that these women are not feminine because they achieved a certain level of success? Because if I remember in the beginning, she says she talks about all things femininity, relationship, and dating. And then she said she was degreed. But so I'm thinking, based on what she's saying, I don't know this to be true. Hold on a second. I don't know. There we go. If, and I say if, because I don't want to make this into a straw man argument. The high earners want someone who's feminine, not necessarily someone who's degreed, right? Then does that mean she doesn't have a high earner? I'm just asking. Inquiring minds want to know. I mean, because she's degreed up. She told me she was degreed, right? For those of you who are on replay, rewind this video back. You'll hear her say it, and you'll hear me repeat it and write it down. I was writing it down. She says she talks about all things femininity, relationship, and dating, and then talks about how she's a degreed up person. Then right here, she's talking about these high earners don't necessarily want somebody who's degreed, but they want somebody who's feminine or something along those lines. You can go back and rewind this. And I also linked the video in my description if you want to check it out for yourself. So based on what she's saying, either her argument is not true if she is what she considers to be feminine, right? And her argument may not be true then because she's degreed. She says she's degreed. I'm not going to go check her credentials, right? So either the argument's not true, or maybe she's not feminine then because she's got degrees. Now, you see how I just made that ridiculous argument? This is what she's saying. This is what she's saying. It's a ridiculous argument. And I want to make this clear. I believe I'm very feminine. Look, and I don't really care what anybody who's whacked out says. Like, it has no credence for me because much of it is just like ridiculous opinions. And these are some really hurt, very emotionally, psychologically unstable people when they get on these platforms and they just yammer around about nonsense. Like, you should be talking about something else. But I know definitely I like to think of myself as very feminine. I never had any issues with finding mates in the past or people to date or anything like that. It has never stopped me from dating. In fact, it has made me very attractive because they're like, wow, you're beautiful and you've got brains, back in my fitter finer younger days. So I'm sitting here thinking like, that has never stopped me. If anything, I've met so many people. I'm not going to really go into some of the other things because I would never be disrespectful to my husband, but like that has never ever stopped me from meeting high earning people. And if you know, you know. So now let's get back into it. Because she said that she talks about all things femininity, relationship, and dating. And somehow she made this equivalency to being degreed up and how that men want someone who's feminine, not degreed. I don't know if I agree that they want someone who's feminine. But I know a whole lot of high earners who want somebody who's degreed up or educated or however you want to split hairs on a definition. Okay. All right, let's go back and continue on.
I did on the Philip Scott show was, are men intimidated by women who are highly educated? And I said the answer is no.
I agree with her. This is not the argument. That's not even the argument. Not once have I even brought it up. Not even the argument. I think men who are exposed and cultured and who read books and have experience and who've traveled and they listen to podcasts and attend seminars and have certification, all forms of education that she called out, which I do agree. I do believe men who have that sort of education are not threatened by women who are educated. So I will agree with her, but that was never the argument. I'm going to sum it up in a second. Why I made that. Let's go. Let's get back to the shenanigans. Let me go ahead. Where is it? Okay.
And a lot of people think that it's intimidation, but they just don't like the attitude that comes behind it. There's some type of attitude once you have a degree.
So that's like a talking point of the manosphere, although there's a little bit of, I would say for some people it is true. But I'm like, who are you hanging around with? Because it's so funny. Like some of the women that I know who are super successful and they're married, they're some of the most gentle people. I've learned a little bit of womanhood from them when I was coming up because, I kind of looked up to them, like so amazing. Like the gentleness of, but like quiet strength, like very like virtuous woman type thing, very like Proverbs 31, what is a virtuous woman? Um, yeah. But these are highly educated people. I know one of them is a doctor, one of them is, I believe she's a software engineer or something like that. But yeah. And there's this assumption that like women who are degreed up have an attitude. When I was dating, I would just want to know, like, what do you like to do? What do you like to do? And I remember men would want to lead with their degrees and stuff, which I wasn't a big fan of leading with your resume, but I'm like, it is what it is, right? Like, I get it. I get it why men would do that. But then when they would ask me, and sometimes they were like, well, whoa, because I did all kinds of things. I mean, like, let me just throw that out there since we're talking about women who are degreed up and they have all these attitudes and stuff. When I was in like my mid 20s, like literally I went out. I had some guy friends of mine and we went down to this is the DC area back when they used to have that club called H2O. No, was it H2O or Zanzibar? I can't remember which one it was. And I remember I was at the bar because they were like, come on out, come on out, come out, hang out with us, hang out with us. And I went down to the bar and I met up with some friends. Like, we got you covered. I was like, like the sister to them that was like, we just all got along. And so I always felt very protected, right? I was sitting at the bar and this guy buys me a drink. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now, I wasn't going to be mean to this guy. I was having good conversation until it wasn't good conversation. This guy starts running down like all the ways that he was amazing in every way. And I just let him talk because I wasn't one of those people who liked being mean. I just like to just have conversation. The guy was having a conversation. He wasn't a bad looking guy, but I was just hanging out with some friends, my guy friends at the time. I didn't have any women friends that were available to go hang out or whatever. And I remember the guy was running down his resume talking about how he enjoys travel. I was like, oh, you enjoy this travel? Great. Let's talk. So I'm trying to find this one little thing to talk to this man about. He decides to tell me about how he's like, yeah, I like to travel, and I could change your life. He's like, I like to go to New Orleans and I like to go to the Caribbean. And so this guy is trying to, like, I don't know what he thought I was. And so I didn't say anything. He's like, so, does that sound like something you enjoy? I'm like, well, I do enjoy traveling. This man wanted to continue to tell me like how great he was. And he finally stops. He's like, oh, so where have you been? So, I'm like listing stuff. I'm like, well, I've been to China. He's like, wait, what? I'm like, oh yes, I was selected to go as a freshman with the PhD students actually when I finished my freshman year to go study intense terahertz lasers. Now I didn't stay there the entire time. I had a family emergency. But yes, I went to China at the end of my freshman year with the PhD students. That was what the abstract was. Now don't ask me what it was because it was way beyond me at the time. I wound up coming back and switching to engineering. But he goes, oh, you've been to China? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, he's like, where else have you been? So I'm like listing off countries. And the guy says to me, oh, I can't F with you then. This is what he says. I'm like, okay. So he's like, I can't F with you. That's what he says. I didn't run down my resume. But nevertheless, he's like, okay, so yeah, I thought I was going to show you something, but apparently I can't show you anything. And so he says all this, disqualified himself. I was like, oh, well, I didn't know what to say. I was like, oh, but you're a really nice guy. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking about what this woman is saying, and I'm like, I forgot the point I was making because now she's got me like. And let me go back. I bet you I'll remember what it was I was saying. Hold on a second. Let's go back to the shenanigans. Here we go.
Like the attitude that comes behind it. There's some type of attitude once you have a degree, this level of enlightening that you feel that you have, that you sometimes show it in attitude that I am better, I am smarter.
Okay, that I remember where I was going with that. So anyway, she assumed that she's making the assumption that all women who have the education have these attitudes. They think they're better. Actually, I think the men who are secure don't feel that way at all. It's the ones who are feeling insecure. That's just had been my set of experiences. So that guy who was at the bar who was just yammering on about how he was going to change my life, and I'm sitting there thinking like at that time I think I was 26 maybe. He's going to change my life, and I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, like you don't even get to talk to me at this point since you want to be a jerk, right? I'm like, until you get your passport stamped, I'm like, you're literally trying to come at me some kind of crazy. And he had asked me about like, what I do, what do I study, all this stuff like that, running down a resume. He disqualified himself. He was the one who had an attitude. He was the one who felt some kind of way. I didn't bring it up. I just said, hey, what do you like to do? He happened to mention traveling, of which I enjoy that. I've traveled around the world. And so I just kind of felt like this statement is just it's not even an intellectual statement. It's not that she made. And I'm like, this is why I say women need to stay off of those panels because they pick up these talking points that come from the manosphere. They put a battery in their back and then they get up there and say the most ridiculous things. Just like she said in the beginning, she said, I talk about all things femininity, relationship, dating, and as a degreed person, right? She said she was degreed. And she's trying to make it seem like, in my opinion, that when she said men want women who are feminine, not necessarily degreed, I said I partially kind of like believe that's true. Like they do want feminine women. I don't have an issue with that at all. But men do, at least the men I know, the ones I rock with, they want somebody who is educated, preferably for sure, and definitely have their own career paths. It doesn't mean it's the only path, but if they had a preference, they'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm like, she needs to stay off these panels.
And it comes across in a disrespectful, a masculine way. So it's not necessarily the degree itself, it's the attitude that comes with it.
I'm like, what kind of people does she surround herself with? If that is your talking point, then I'm going to say that you need to find some new people to hang around. You need to find some new friends because most of the people I know, black or white, this this is like a non-starter. It's so ridiculous. It's just not even an intellectual comment to make. It's the people who have degrees with all the attitude that comes with it. That's your talking point. Going back to my video, I simply said, get an education. I talked about why I said it's valuable. It doesn't determine your value, but it is valuable, right? I'm like, it can help you in mate selection. It can help you with positioning and etc. I said, don't let people pull that Jedi mind trick on you that an education isn't valuable. She went on some whole other thing about femininity and being degreed up and attitudes and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. Mm, let me go back. Let's hurry. Let's finish this up.
And the same way as when you think about rich people, when you think rich, you think synonymous with snooty. And I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying this is my opinion, but a lot of people in society associate that. Okay.
Okay, real quick. I mean, I guess that's true, but you know what? Being that I know men and I know men and women who are wealthy, okay, rich, wealthy, depending on how you want to define the definition, they're definitely not snooty. Are there some out there? Yes, but you can find that with people who are struggling financially. You can find it anywhere, any class. I know people who are like hella paid and are some of the most down to earth people. It's the ones who think that they've got some coin who want to tell you how much coin they have. This is why I tell everybody I don't have any money. All right, let's continue on with the shenanigans.
Okay, obviously, if you have money, you talk to people this way, you act this way, you act high and mighty. When in fact, that you can still have those things, but not be snooty. So you do not want to associate your degree with you being better.
How does she make okay? How does she say that people who have money and she associated it with a degree and being better? She's pulling a straw man. She went from rich people who act snooty, so that doesn't mean if you have a degree that you're better. I'm like, what? You made That is a straw. It's almost like a false equivalency. It's like a straw man argument. First of all, originally all I said was, "Hey, get your education." I'm going to wrap it up with why I say get your education. But what? Wait, let's go back because I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Let's go back again. Let's go back and listen to the shenanigans.
Have those things, but not be
Hold on.
mighty. When But a lot of people in society associate that. Okay, obviously, if you have money, you talk to people this way, you act this way, you act high and mighty. When in fact, that you can still have those things, but not be snooty. So you do not want to associate your degree with you being better. And even though you may not say the words, sometimes you, through your actions as a woman, we may say that, oh, because we're degreed, any guy that steps to us without a degree, he is not good, or those who do have a degree are lame.
Okay. Oh, okay. She's talking about rich people being high and mighty and the perception in society of them being snooty, even though it may not be true. And then she said, so don't associate your degree with being better. This is what's called creating a false argument. That was never even the argument. I mean, she just went on this whole situation. And all I said was, Black woman, you need to get your education. I didn't talk anything about earlier when she was talking about what's considered feminine and all this other stuff. And like I said, when she's saying men want women who are feminine, not necessarily agreed, or kind of like partially agree. I think what she's misunderstanding is I said having a degree is valuable. It does not determine your value. There's other things that determine your value too, right? She made that equivalency, not me. And so I'm like, if you're telling me, like, her words, not mine, she said that she was feminine. She talks about all things with femininity, relationship, and dating, and that she's degreed up. And then she's making this loose connection. It's a nuanced thing about femininity and degrees. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, wait a minute, then. Does that mean you're not feminine? Because you said you're degreed. Or is your argument false, right? Because I don't believe equating femininity to college degrees. I don't believe that that's like, no. Why would you equate that? She also said it was a man's degree. So already, like, she lost me because I'm like, oh, okay, like this is not a very intellectual conversation at all.
Or in just all of these terms. So again, don't let your education be the basis of why you deserve this type of man, because those are two.
Once again, where did anybody say you deserve this type of man? All I said was getting your education opens basically doors. I said it gives you access. I said that it can help you find a high earning mate. This isn't like children in concrete. I'm like, it's valuable. It can help you with positioning. I should have said networking. She made a very I'm like, child.
Two completely different things. Your education is going to help you get a job, which, to be honest, you can still get a job. I think you can still get a good job without a degree. I think.
Once again, no one's arguing that. That's not the argument. That's not an argument. It's not. No one's refuting that. Why is this a conversation starter? Where's that coming from? For those of you who are just joining in live, you can go back on the replay. I played my short, 47 seconds, by the way, and then I'm playing the video that I'm reacting to because she used my content in this, basically trying to insinuate that I'm saying all these things. And all I said was get your education. It has meaning, it's valuable, it's not determined. I said it doesn't determine your value, but it is valuable. I said it can help you with finding a mate, it can help you with positioning, whatever. And I said, don't let people pull the Jedi mind trick on you and tell you that it doesn't matter or something like that. I did not equate getting a job with a degree. What I said was it can help you find somebody, have access to high earning men or whatever it is. Go back and listen to it for yourself. I linked my short in the description, and I also linked this video that I'm recapping in the description. So then you can see it and hear it for yourself.
That's the lie that America tells us, but neither here or there. But if you do not have this piece of paper, you can still have this great man, but it's not the education that you need, it's the femininity you need and the proper decision making and the vetting. And a lot of people are.
So once again, I am not discounting that men want someone who's feminine, or most men want someone who's feminine. I'm not going to discount that at all. Nowhere did I say that. All I said was, Black women, get your education. That's it. This isn't an argument. They're trying to create an argument. If I had to talk to the whacked out manosphere, if they said, do you believe that women should be feminine? I'm like, I believe women should be whatever they want. I just believe that most men want a feminine woman, but I believe women should be whatever they want to believe. Now, you may or may not find a mate that wants that in a woman. That's separate. But we aren't arguing femininity. She look, this, what is this channel called? I think it's the Philip Scott show. Clearly is one of those like weirdo manosphere dudes who's just mad at what do you call it, the modern woman, and they put a battery in this woman's back, with the one with all the flowers on her shirt or dress or whatever that is.
Are thinking that my money, my status, me making six figures, me doing this means I.
Here we go. She brought up six figures. I just happen to say you can get I said you can help you with finding a higher earner mate or whatever like that. But like I said, a lot of this is starting to sound like these manosphere talking points. I'm just really disappointed. I'm disappointed.
I deserve this type of man. So, when she mentioned that about, this is going to get you the type of man, that's not true.
I never said this was going to get you a type of man. I said you can help you with or help you gain access to a mate. I did not chisel this in concrete. Never chiseled this in concrete. Doing too much. Don't chop my words.
If you think about that video that Kevin Samuels did,
and there it is. Now, I don't ever bring this person up on my channel because I feel like there's a lot that's going on if you have to follow this person. There's something to be said about you. I feel like I just speak my own opinions. Some of them may coincide with others, some of them don't. But if you're sitting there lauding this person, you've already lost me. You've already lost me. So why are my kids stamping overhead in my house? I can't stand when they do that. So I'm like, okay, clearly I was right. Let's continue.
Average at best, that famous video. The woman was thinking because she made, $100,000 a year, she deserved a man who also made $100,000. But men do not look at your education and your money as your qualifications. But
I will agree with her on that. What I said was, Black women, get your education. I believe that men want women who are feminine. I do believe that, well, generally speaking, because not all men are into feminine. Look, some men like to be bossed around. I don't know. But I think that high earning men, at least the ones I know, they do like educated women. They do. I look at the people in my neighborhood. Most of the women who stay home are highly educated women. Yes. They all had like careers and stuff before they stopped working. Okay. Now I'm just calling a thing a thing. And in my old neighborhood and stuff like that, when I used to play tennis and everything like that, most of the women I knew, these were college educated women who had, careers and stuff before they became stay-at-home moms. Their husbands were high earners and afforded them that lifestyle that they could afford to stay home. A lot of them met in college. Okay. I just came back from having brunch and gambling with some friends. And one of the wives, she actually met her husband in college. I said what I said.
But your femininity. All right. So please get on your feminine journey today. All right. To know more about my content, you can go.
Okay. So she's talking about feminine journey. I don't even know if I could even listen to someone like that, because I don't even know if I can take her serious. Now, I want to speak to why I said Black women need to get their education. I say you need to get your education because the community is in disrepair. And until Black men can catch up, right? The fact of the matter is you need to be fully self-supporting. This has nothing to do about being feminine or not feminine. That's separate, because you can be a highly educated person and be feminine. You can be a non-educated person and not be feminine. Okay? Now, let's talk about this whole femininity thing. I mean, like, my understanding is you have people like Beyonce, Nia Long. You've had one of the Kardashian chicks or whatever, or I think all of them actually. All the Kardashians, like Adam Levine and all this stuff like that. Didn't they marry or date feminine women? And that didn't keep them like these relationships together. My understanding is these women were perceived as highly feminine, like like tens, as far as I know, that I think. And how has that, oh, as a matter of fact, isn't Beyonce super feminine, uneducated? Yeah, how did that help her with Jay-Z? Okay. And I say this now, Beyonce is educated because she has enough money. But I say, look, you can be educated or not, feminine or not. I always like for women to have agency in themselves. It doesn't mean that you have to be the boss, bitch, or anything like that. What I am saying is get your education. What if something happens to your husband? You have to be able to support yourself. If you have children, you want to be able to support your children, whether or not they have enough in saved funds or life insurance or whatever it is. Okay. You need to have agency in yourself. That's why I say get your education. And it shows, the data shows people who are educated make more over the lifetime than people who are not educated. Getting your education allows you access to other people. You learn new things, access to new experiences, etc., etc., etc. I do not back down about what I said. I don't like equating education to a man's degree. That lets me know that this woman is definitely trying to be the ultimate, like, pick me, pick me, pick me. But the last time I checked, and yeah, the last time I checked, I'm a highly educated person and I'm married with children. I don't think that held me back. And I know many women, specifically Black women, who are educated and are married to Black men, to high earners. I will say this too. I'm not like advocating divesting, but I see why people divest. I mean, I say if you want to divest, just go ahead and divest. Like if people want to just do what they want to do, I tell everybody do what they want to do. Do what you want to do. But I see why women want to divest right now, right? They want to open their options. Some of it's because they hate Black men or whatever. They're going through whatever little hate thing they're going through, whatever. I can't deal with that. But if you're looking for someone, if you're educating yourself and you're meeting people and having new experiences and it's opening new doors and you're networking with people, and sometimes you're not going to always meet people who look like you, chances are you're going to want to date somebody who's kind of like that, right? Like you're probably going to find somebody who doesn't look Black at some point. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't have a problem with people doing that type of thing. But I always tell Black women, you should still get your education. Why would someone not want you to be educated? You want to be your best version of yourself. Challenge yourself. Have goals. It doesn't mean you're not feminine. It doesn't mean that at all. And to equate education to femininity, I'm just, it was a loose relationship, but she tried it. She definitely tried it. This is a nuanced conversation. I don't like when people are assuming when you are educated that you have an attitude. I don't like when people try to chop up your words. I don't like when people try to make straw man arguments. Okay, Danielle Davita. I think there's nothing wrong with being educated. And look, women are the carriers of culture. Men, believe it or not, they do want women to be educated. I just, like I've said in other videos, you can go back through my content. I've said men want, like, so men don't necessarily need someone who's educated, right? That's not necessarily true, but I do believe a lot of them want educated women. But that's not necessarily like like what's to make you pass the litmus test, right? Litmus test. They want other things, right? I've said this in other content. I believe women need to have agency in themselves. I do believe your degrees are not necessarily like, when I say they don't care, I want to make sure I'm clear. It's not like the limiting factor. But the ones that I know who are educated, they do want educated women. But it's not like if she's not educated, I can't chat with her, but they would prefer for women to be educated, because now you can be a better helpmate. You can bounce things off each other. She may have access to a community that could help her mate. I'm not saying that's what they're all looking for. Like, if you don't have an education, they can't rock with you. But a lot of them do want women who have education, contrary to popular belief. But at the end of the day, I've said in multiple videos, your education does not determine your value, but your education is valuable. I stand by what I said. Now, look, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm going to tell you the reason why. This is the kind of conversation that we need to have. I believe within reason. Like, I don't like to focus too much on these manosphere talking points because it's like wasting brain cycles. We need to be talking about solutions. Solutions. So, like, this is why you want to like subscribe to my channel, because I feel like I give it to you rough, raw, rugged. Like, it just is what it is. Look, I am middle-aged, because the last time I heard, I think one of those talking points was like when you hit 30, 35, 40, one of those middle, like, there's a wall. So apparently I'm past the wall. Like, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. It's not. Look, I hung out with my husband this morning. He's over the hill or over the wall or whatever they call it. Okay. So I'm not, I don't really I'll say this too. I find that the people, what little bit I've seen of some of these people who are talking about all this stuff, none of these men are in relationships that hold any water. They're either divorced or not in this, like, I'm like, why are you even talking? I'm just really sad that they put a battery in this woman's back. The fact that she would get up there and make these straw man arguments, I'm like, wait a second. You make sure you take my whole clip. All right, so look, it is what it is. It is 2:58, and I need to get off of here because I need to take my daughter to lacrosse at some point, and I need to make sure dinner is ready, because you know why? I'm a feminine wife. Oh my gosh. While my husband is with my boys at their practices or something, I need to take my daughter to something. But yeah, I need to make sure I throw something in the oven or whatever before I run out, because I'm a feminine wife. I'm a submissive wife. I can read and write too. I got my education. I can read and write, and I do as I'm told. Whatever. All right. So look, go ahead and hit the subscribe button.